Okay, so what is mindfulness? Well, there's a few different definitions around, but one that I quite like comes from a guy called John Kabat-Zinn, who did a lot of work in the 70s on using mindfulness to help people deal with chronic pain, stress, that kind of thing. And there's a huge amount now of scientific research showing that mindfulness is a really good strategy for dealing with a lot of this stuff. So we're going to use his definition. He says that mindfulness is the awareness that arises when you pay attention, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So what does all that mean? Well, first of all, it's about paying attention. It's about training the mind to go where we put it and stay there, basically. Our minds typically like to run off in all directions. Worrying about this, digging up that memory, thinking, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I good enough? Etc., etc. So part of the practice is about just training the mind to go where we put it and stay there. This is a really useful skill, actually. It's very hard to get anything done if we can't focus for an extended period of time, just stay on track. If we're constantly getting distracted and procrastinating and doing whatever else, it's very difficult to see things through to the end. So paying attention is the first part. The next bit is on purpose. Now this might seem a little bit odd. I mean, of course you're going to pay attention on purpose, right? What? But if you think about it, we're surrounded by things which are constantly trying to get us to pay attention to them almost against our will. If you've got a phone, it's probably pinging and dinging and doing all sorts of stuff all day long. If you walk down a street, you're surrounded by advertising billboards. You go in a shop, they're playing music, they're making announcements. There's all these things all around us that are trying to kind of grab our attention and pull it over there to where the advertising person wants us to go. So that can be quite a stressful thing, actually, to be constantly buffeted and pulled and pushed around like this all the time. So another part of mindfulness practice is really about reclaiming control of our attention in that way. Not being pulled around by external things, but really being able to choose for ourselves, to pay attention on purpose, rather than being sucked off in one direction or another. In the present moment is the next thing. Now this is really key to mindfulness, and you've probably heard people who talk about mindfulness talking about the present moment. There are books like Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, for example, where it's right there in the title. So mindfulness practices in general are about bringing our attention into the here and now, rather than the future, the past, whatever else it might be. This is a really important thing. An awful lot of the worrying that we do is based on our thoughts about what the future might be like, as opposed to what the present moment actually is like. A lot of our distress that comes from remembering the past is, again, rooted not in the present moment, but in our thoughts about that thing that happened. So if we can bring ourselves into the present moment, very often what we find is that right this second, right now, is not as bad as what we think might be happening tomorrow or a week from now, or even a minute from now. So a big part of mindfulness practice is about coming into the here and now, dealing with what's right in front of us, rather than worrying about the stuff. It's not that planning is wrong or that we never do it, but the only thing we can actually affect is what's right here, right now in front of us. So that's what we train to work with in mindfulness. Finally, there's the non-judgmental part. Now, this is really important as well. A lot of the time when something comes up in our life, we react to it in a kind of habitual way. We all have these habits and patterns which we've learnt throughout the course of our life. They were part of our upbringing, many of them. They're things that we've kind of figured out as we've gone along, basically, and they're good enough ways of responding to things. But often they're not quite as helpful as they could be. We see something that we don't like, we react with dislike, with fear, with anger. Before we really know what's going on, we're caught up in an emotion, we're just kind of being carried away with it. Maybe we realise a few minutes later, oh, that thing really made me angry, or whatever it might be. But there's no real choice in the process, there's no control there. It just, the emotion happens and it sweeps you away and then you're gone. So, in mindfulness practice, we train ourselves to be non-judgmental about what's going on. We try to see what's happening in our experience as it is, without needing to change it in any way, without needing to make it different, without needing to react to it in any way. Just to look at our experience and say, okay, right now, this is what's happening. And the more we do that, the more we find that those habitual reactions start to lose some of their grip over us. We start to find a little bit of space being created around our experience in which we can actually think a little bit more about how we'd like to respond to what's going on, rather than just being swept away. So those are the key bits. Paying attention, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally.